Hey everyone, this is Clayton, and recently I was asked, what do you do with all these stones that you cut? Well, today I'm going to show you what I do with them. Some of them. Most of them. A good bit. Hi everyone, this is Clayton from the Sand and Shore Shop, and I take things like this and turn it into stuff like this. Come and watch me make shiny stuff. Hi again, this is Clayton from the Sand and Shore Shop, and like I said, people have asked, what do you do with all these stones that you cut? And you know what I do with the shells if you've watched the previous video. You know, the shells get turned into pendants. And, well, to be honest, most of the stones, some of the stones, okay, bunches, I cut a lot of stones, man. I cut stones. I mean, there's one that I cut just the other day. It's actually a pretty nice little one. I like that one. But I got lots of them like this. And a lot of them go into the box that I'm going to do something with later. Okay? So that tells you what happens to some of them, a lot of them, most of them. Okay. But what happens is I actually do things with some of these stones. All right? Like, okay, this stone here, this was a stone straight out of the landscaping rocks. All right? So after I cut it, I set it in this pendant. Now, it'll hang like that. Of course, you can't see it hanging, but there it is. You know, this is brass. I like working with brass because it's inexpensive. It works very much like silver, and I can practice on making things with it, and it's very good. It actually comes out very nice. I mean, you have to worry about it tarnishing, but so same thing with silver. And, well, speaking of silver, here's a ring. This stone, actually, this is onyx, and I actually did not cut this stone, technically. I bought some pre-made cabs of onyx because it was cheaper for me to buy the pre-made cabs than it was to actually buy some onyx and cut it. But I took this stone, and I didn't like the finish on it, so I reworked it a little bit, and then I made this ring to put it in. And this is sterling silver. So, you know, technically I worked this stone a little bit, so it's one that I worked. Here's one of the first stones that I cut, to be honest. This is amethyst. This is a fairly big piece of amethyst, and it is set in brass also. A really heavy ring. I was learning how to do bending at the time, and I could bend this big old piece of brass. You know, I figured I could bend anything, so this makes I like this ring. It's big and it's bulky and it's kind of crude looking, but like I said, this is actually the first ring that I made that had a setting. So there's a lot of things wrong with it, but then it was a learning experience. Well, here, I'll do this one. This one is for a friend. This was a commission piece. This is citrine. It's a very clear piece of citrine. Very, very clear. It's sterling silver. And it's one of those deals where if I would have known, I knew it was going to magnify because of how clear the citrine was. But had I known how good it was going to magnify, or how well, I wouldn't have. If you can see there, I cut a heart shape in the bottom of the setting so that the stone would magnify. You can see it's very much magnified. If I'd have known how much it would have magnified, I would have cut that heart about half that size, if not a third. But all in all, it turned out to be a very, very nice ring. The citrine came in a huge crystal that I bought from my cousin. She does stone wrapping, and look her up on Etsy, Wraps for Dreams. You're not going to be disappointed. She does really good stuff. And she had bought a crystal, a citrine crystal, and then sold that to me. And the citrine crystal was fabulous. I mean, really fabulous. Sorry about that. I thought I had the citrine crystal here, the parts that I had left after I cut this one out. And there's a beautiful, beautiful piece of that citrine that actually had a crystal inside of it. And here, I'll go get that. I'll get a better picture of it magnified, or I'll get a better picture of it with the better camera. You can probably see it fairly well here. I never took it off the dop stick yet because I just didn't know what to do with it. So I just left it there just in case it would get lost. Because believe me, I don't want this one to get lost. This is probably one of the most unique cabs I have ever cut. And I want to do something with it. There we go. As you can see, the crystal was a perfect crystal inside of the citrine crystal. And, oh, can't do it that way. And it made a, well, I was able to cut it out. And, you know, pretty much don't have to describe it. You have to see it to understand it. Because that was probably one of the most unique pieces I've ever seen. With that crystal inside there, and I was able to cut the cabochon around it. And I still don't know what to do with this thing, but I am going to do something with it. Okay, so that's this ring. So that's one of the stones. That's what I do with stones I cut. And we had this. This is another stone out of the landscaping rocks. This was pinkazite. That's about what it is, because I have no clue what it is. And I cut that one, and I made this little brooch out of brass to set it in. And I've got this ring here. This is a pinky ring for me. And I was learning a new technique, and I didn't quite get the technique right, but I still went ahead and set the stone that I had decided to, or the stone that I had made the ring to fit. And this is Cryosporus crispus, or I'm not sure how it's pronounced. It's got a C in it, and it's cry something. But the stone was nice, and it's a half decent ring, you know. And then this was another experiment. And by the way, this is 0.5 millimeter brass sheeting that I made these two things out of. So this is really, really thin stuff. And I was able to make a thick double-sided ring to put this piece of turquoise in. And I got this turquoise from a buyer out west. I don't know exactly what mine it came from, but it was stuff that they sold to crush up, you know, to put in inlays and whatnot. But the technique I used to work stones, I was able to actually back a piece of this with some other stone, and then work it as it would be worked normally, you know. And I think that turquoise came out really nice. The ring itself isn't too bad. I said this was really, 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 really thin 0.49 millimeter brass sheeting. So if I can solder this stuff together, you know, I can easily work decent sized silver like this stuff, you know. This is a cakewalk compared to putting this thing together. But that, you know, that's what I do with a lot of these stones. Some of them just get put back for maybe later, or others will get set into rings or brooches, or, you know, for a customer. This is probably one of the most clear and perfect pieces of, you know, the crystal that I have ever cut. I mean, citrine can have a really deep orange color, and Sometimes it can be more clear. This one was much more orange when the crystal was whole. But anyway, that's what I do with the stones I cut. And if you like the video, give us a like down there. Hit the subscribe button. And I'll be back with more of these videos. And thanks for spending some time with me. Have a good night.